Welcome to Season 6 of the RAG podcast. Now, for those of you who don't know, the RAG stands for Recruitment Agency Growth, and this show has been around since early 2019. And every week, we are obsessed with finding out how the world's most successful and innovative recruitment agencies and their founders have got to where they are today. In Season 6, alongside the founder's story and the inside information of that business, I also want to focus on the reality of today's economy. There is so much noise about this inevitable recession that we find ourselves in right now. And where it's going to go, is it really having an impact on the recruitment sector? Are they seeing any change in job flow? Are they seeing any change in candidate control or activity? What is going on? I want to find out. So every single week, I want to forget the propaganda, forget the noise. I'm going to speak to a real life recruitment owner and find out what is going on in their business. I will bring it to you every single Wednesday from 12 o'clock across multiple platforms. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RAG podcast. On this week's show, I was joined by Gary Redman. Gary is the CEO of Now Business Group. This is a collection of recruitment organizations in construction, in finance, accountancy, services, and massively in the education sector, headquartered in the UK with a really strong sales and EBITDA profile. We're talking over £5.5 to £6 million per year in net profit. Gary started the business 27 years ago. He started in recruitment at 19, quite quickly launched his own company and has been through everything you can imagine in between. In this episode, we break down and chronologically crawl through those 27 years. We talked about the highs and the lows. We talked about Gary's health issues, his personal life, and how he's made some amazing things happen, but also being the catalyst to causing a lot of issues and challenges in the business as well. I think we agreed at the end of this episode, this will only be part one, because Gary's story is one that I think we've got another hour or so to tell. But in this part one, you're going to find so much value. You're going to be inspired. I left feeling so inspired that someone who's in the later stages of their career is still so motivated by just doing a great job, building teams and building businesses, regardless of the money and the financial return. It makes me think that, I've got so much ahead of me. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I did recording it. Without further ado, Gary, welcome to the RAG podcast.
Thank you, Sean. Great to be here.
Pleasure. We've been talking about it for a long time, and it's my fault, to be honest. So thanks for your patience. It's not.
I did give Amar a little bit of stick, but no,
it's not personal.
I had to cancel the last one, so but a bit of tennis, and we finally get here.
It's not personal, Gary. Honestly, I think I've been excited about this one, but it's just been a bit of a mad roller coaster over the last few months. But we're here now. So look, I've given a brief introduction. I don't think I ever do it justice. So can you start by giving us the bird's eye view of you and your business portfolio today? Then we'll go back and we'll tell the story.
Yeah, so sort of broad overview of the business today. I sort of trade under the brand of Now Business Group, which is a limited company, but it's not a trading company. And then we have two specific companies: Now Careers Group and Now Education Group. Both unique groups, as our business model is around having a shared equity. As of today, Now Education Group estimating turnover of around 30 million with an EBITDA of around 4.4. And Now Careers, which is, I'm sure as we get to the story, is a much smaller business and for various reasons, will turn over around 7.8 million with an EBITDA of around 1.4. So as a group, we're not far off 6, if you combined it, around 6 million.
What's the number? If you look at your revenue, a lot of that's contract revenue. What's your gross profit before your EBIT? What's your because there's three numbers I look at. There's revenue, there's GP or net fee income in recruitment, and then you've got your EBIT.
Yeah, so net fee income. I know you'd ask these questions, and I'm totally unprepared, of course.
Just because the percentage net EBIT profit as a percentage of revenue is always really small, right? It's always like,
Yeah, so revenue on education, income revenue is around 9 million.
Right.
In FI. And on careers, revenue around 3.2.
So then you're talking about some decent profit margins there. You're talking about 30% plus. Then if you're looking
Yeah,
at
an education, just over 30%. And our model is probably different. Listening to the show, and I'm an avid listener to the show, and I know a lot of people talk about numbers and how many consultants they've got. Where we talk about revenue per head. Everything we talk about is revenue per head, and our revenue per head is probably not completely different to the competition, but in the sectors we're in, especially within education, it's very, very different, and our model is very, very different.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Let's find out why and what was different about it. So let's go back to the start, though. So I know you've been in the game for is it 27 years? Was it? Is that how long since you started the business?
30 years, 30 years. Yeah.
Pre-starting the group, what were you do? Were you in recruitment then?
So yeah, I got into recruitment. I mean, I got married really young. So I got married at 19.
That is
and come from a Catholic background. We both did, met at school. And we didn't live together or anything like that. It was the day you lived together, the day you got married. It was very
that is traditional.
Yeah, very, very, very traditional. And I worked in a shop fitting company, cutting glass.
Right.
And I was quite good at it. I quite enjoyed it, and there was lots of extra hours which I had to do. Being a young guy with a young wife that got herself pregnant pretty quick. I had nothing to do with that one. And my father-in-law, Sam, he worked for a company called Plum Shop Fitting, which was probably one of the largest shop fitting companies in the UK, and they used agency labour. I never heard of agencies. No. I lived in a little town, Rugby, never heard of agencies. And he said, there's this company in London, open office in Birmingham, and they're looking for somebody with a trades background to do hiring and firing, as he called it. I said, what does that mean? You just put people on site. I said, do I get to wear a suit? He says, yeah, you work in an office. So I went for an interview, and I went on my little Vespa over to Sheldon in Birmingham, had the interview and got the job. And it absolutely fucking terrified me. It absolutely terrified me. I was put on a desk. I was given a yellow pages. I was told to go through construction part of the yellow pages and get on the phone. And that was pretty much my training.
Wow.
And I did all right. I got on with it and battled through and worked really hard for 12 months. And then I got promoted to branch manager. And I literally did nothing. So my whole view on life from working in a shop fitting company in the factory is the bosses do nothing. So now I'm a boss. I'm gonna do nothing. Now this was I can't even go back to the years. My son's 32. So he was born on the 3rd of January, and I went to work the week after, and I was fired.
So 1991.
Yeah, around then. Yeah. So from there, I went to work. Yeah, there was no Retrorex or anything like that. So I got on the phone, made some calls.
Why were you fired? Because you just weren't doing it?
Yeah, I was completely useless. Yeah, proper. Yeah, if you look back at it and you go, yeah, you were absolute. I just didn't do anything. Rocked in late.
How old are you at this point?
21, 22.
Yeah. It's an early baptism of a fire running a business.
Yeah. Finding the loudest tie I could possibly find, and a fake Louis Vuitton briefcase. So, yeah, the whole thing. So proper dickhead. So I got on the phone and got some interviews and got a job. And I went to work for a small company called Tradesman Contracts, 2 owners, and I just knuckled down and got on with it. And then I got kind of a really long story. I got headhunted by ABC Contracts, which was old Austin and Ben, that was where I really learned my trade. It was really ruthless. Again, there's no computers, there's telephones, Rolodex, and if you wasn't hitting your numbers, or you wasn't on the phone would be sellotaped to your head. You'd have your tie stapled to the desk. I quite enjoyed that environment. It was quite Wolf of Wall Street for me. If you were put in that situations because you wasn't doing your job, and I really enjoyed it, and I really thrived and started to really learn. That's where I was starting to really learn.
What were you actually recruiting at that point?
Yeah, I was doing trades and labour, and then I was headhunted, and I was tempted with a company car because I was still sort of heading into Birmingham on my Vespa every day, which was like 30 miles each way, and then. I was headhunted by He-Man Contracts, and I suppose any listeners that are back in the day is Heston and Mannion. I think they were eventually bought out by Securicor, but I went to work for them, and got given a company car, Ford Orion, which I thought was like, I've made it. This is it. And cracked on. I did really well. You got into league tables, similar culture to ABC, but not as ruthless. And eventually, I just thought, I'm going to start on my own. I can do this on my own.
So what year is this now, do you think? Or how many years into the career was this?
So what are we now? We're in 2023. So let's take 30 years off.
Right. So we're talking about 1993. You've probably been in the game for what, 3-4 years?
Yeah, 93, 94. So yeah.
And what was the trigger? Do you remember what the trigger was that said that it made you think, well, I could do this on my own? Was it like the autonomy of how you worked, or the fact that you'd built other people, or was there something that made you think, well, I can do this?
I'm a little bit like Sean. If you said to me now, and I probably wouldn't do it now because I'm treated for it. So I was found out I had ADHD about 15 years ago, perhaps 10, 15 years ago. But prior to that, if you said to me, Gary, I've got this great idea. I want to go across Iraq on a motorbike for charity. Are you in? I'm like, yeah, let's get a flight. Let's go and do it.
Yeah.
So someone mentioned it to me, and the next thing you know, I've got my company cards in an envelope, and I'm off. And I found a little bit of, and that was it. Found a little bit of office space. It was easy. It was. You look back at those days, and I wish I was as smart as I am now, because it was easy to open bank accounts then. I got an overdraft. I took one guy with me from the office. I hired an admin person. And we just cracked on with it. And
this is what was this education you'd been doing, or was this trade?
No. This is trades and labour still.
Right.
So the business was called Skillman Contract Services, and it's still the same limited company under Now Careers. Still now, always on the same limited company. No, it was just trades and labour, and I just went for it. And then I started hiring more people. Then I got a bigger office, and then I hit some cash flow problems. Then I saw some funding out through. They were called Cash Simply or Cash Friday, which was owned by Meridian, Rod Kavanagh back in the day, that Lloyds Bank bought out many years ago. And that's how I funded the business, then funded the growth. And then I bought a little business in Edinburgh. And then I didn't have a plan. There wasn't. I remember back in the day when the Inland Revenue phoned up and they were asking about PAYE and taxes and this, that, and the other. I didn't have a clue. So we needed to get an accountant. So we got an accountant, and then the business, I'd say, for quite a few years it never had a plan. It was all around survival. Have we got cash in the bank? Where are we at? Yeah, and I wanted to.
What was your life like? Because you're 19. I think you said you were pretty broke when you got married.
Yeah. When I got married, it was we had nothing. We lived in a little terraced house. That was the ex RAF house where they used to put people who didn't pay their rent. We actually bought this house. You had to get up in the morning to light a fire to get hot water.
That's mad.
So I had nothing. So I look at business in a way that when you've got nothing, you're prepared to give everything to get something, and that's where I was at.
So you go from 3 to 5 years of working for other people. You must have earned some money at this point and upgraded your lifestyle, and you got a kid. No.
Honestly, no. I mean, I was paying myself when I started the business. When I started the business, it's quite a long story because I've been around a long time. But when I started the business, there were some Christmases we never had Christmas presents. We were living off credit cards, overdrafts, trying to.
What did your wife think?
Nothing. She just believed that. I guess you'd have to ask her that. But I guess it's not.
Get her on.
Really, she's actually in the gym, I think. But yeah.
Well, there you go. She's in the gym. No, really, I think it's funny because I met my wife when I was 24, and I was a teacher, and I was leaving the UK, and I had nothing, to the point where me and Emma were best mates, living together, both going traveling. And every week we'd gone out for a year. We'd gone out on the piss every Saturday night. And every week we were like, we shouldn't go out this week. We do have to save to go traveling at some point. And we were like, well, is this one night out going to stop us from going? Well, no. So we decided every week to go out. And then it was literally my last night out that I went out and I met Lauren, and I had no money. I literally didn't have any money. The school that I went was paying me because I was a teacher at the time. I was on contract for the first half term, September and October. And they paid me a week into the or at the end of the half term. I was already in India at that point. So I flew with an overdraft. I had my flight booked, but I just had an overdraft of £2,000 and not a penny in my bank. So when she met me then, we didn't we didn't have a single meal out. We didn't do anything. We just literally sat in and drank a bottle of wine and had a chat, and it was great fun. And I mean, I'm not at your level now, but hopefully, I've just bought a house. We're renovating it. We're doing the garden up. We're going on holidays, and it is mad that they kind of not everyone believes in you early on.
No, and I get that. I remember when Tom was born and I started the business. Obviously I'd been sacked. Tom was about 2 years old, I think, and we booked a holiday to Newquay. And obviously I started the business, and we booked a week's holiday in Newquay, and we could only go for 3 nights because that's all we could afford. Wow. And then we had Rebecca, and then we would save the Haven holiday vouchers from the Sun.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So we could go on holiday. And people look at you today and go, well, yeah, you're all right, you're loaded. I said, yeah, but my life's blessed. I woke up one morning, went down to the bottom of the garden, and there was a tree there, and it was just full of gold, wasn't it? Like it's done itself. But yeah, we did come from that humble background, and it was a battle.
So the first few years, you mentioned hiring people. How many? Give us a bit more detail around the initial growth.
So the initial growth, when we got to a point, we'd ripped a team out of Newcastle.
Right.
So these are the fun days. So we ripped a team out of Newcastle of 4 people. So we opened Newcastle with 120 people out on site from day one because we completely took the team out. 2 weeks later, we were closed down with an Anton pillar order, and they raided our offices and everything. So then we had a court case, and that was with Andrew Redman. Really, actually turned into it. We got on really well afterwards, and as I got older.
Did you restart that business with those 4 people or not?
Yeah, we kept it going. We kept it going. Yeah, and it's. I mean, now, you wouldn't entertain anything. If anybody said to me they're coming with me with business, we just don't entertain it, because if you do it to me, if you're going to bring that to me, you'll take it away from me at some point. But yeah, we had sort of 4 or 5 people in Newcastle. We had 4 or 5 people in Edinburgh. Probably a team of 10 in Birmingham. About 10 in Nottingham. So yeah, I had about 40 odd people working.
So you must have had a decent, like I say, revenue must be strong, but again, with no organization or plan.
Yeah. I mean, we were probably averaging. We should probably work on the average consultant sort of temp revenue doing sort of £1,500, £2,000 a week. But again, there was no real structure to it. It wasn't looking at profit and loss. We wasn't talking about EBITDA. We wasn't talking about NFI. We wasn't talking about revenue per head. We wasn't talking about cost per head. It was all around survival. But we were very young. And
but was your life upgrading at that point then? Were you starting to think?
It started
doing that kind of money for 40 people. You're talking about 400,000 a month there. 300 to 400,000 a month. It's a lot of money.
Life was changing. We keep popping out children, so I've got 3 kids. The house upgraded. We've got a better house. We moved a couple of times.
But you're still young now. You're still what, mid to late 20s. You're not even in.
Yeah. But I think I emulated. I always wanted to be like Hill McGlynn. I really.
Hill McGlynn got bought by Randstad.
Yeah, and I met Stephen Hill a couple of times, and he did a bit of coaching with me actually. And he was a really, really good guy, and I really respected him. And I really want to try and emulate that business. I think probably at that time I was trying to take too much control of the business and control everything. Probably a bit of a control freak, and going back to those days. They were interesting days. Yeah, of course. I wish I could turn them back, and because the market was definitely easier.
Yeah,
100%.
Less structure and regulation.
Yeah, and the things that we face as business owners and running a business and running a recruitment business now, they're necessary, but there's a lot more things involved in running a business today.
So when did it start to change then? When did you start planning things? What was the catalyst there?
Yeah, so I brought in a management consultancy. Somebody introduced me to a management consultancy, and they did some coaching with me, and we rebranded the business to now Recruitment.
Yep.
And we really started to sort of look at budgets, and I really wanted to go into different sectors. Skillman was very much a trades and labour business. I wanted to go into the white collar side of things. We opened up accountancy recruitment. That's when we got into the education sector. I had 3 people join me in Birmingham from education. So I started, the whole Now brand was around, the whole .com thing was coming alive. And I really wanted to then take the business into different areas. during that period at the same time, I also started a company called Madison Group,
Right.
which would probably class today as an umbrella company. It was mainly contractors, construction workers were getting paid through, back in the day, as a composite company.
Yeah.
We were making a lot more profit margin. And I said to the FD, we've got no cash. He said, yeah, because you're paying all these composite companies out, gross plus VAT. And I said, why don't we start our own? And we did, and we couldn't come up with a name. So I said, ask Dave what his dog was called. And he said the dog was called Madison. I said, so okay, we'll call it Madison Group. And we turned that into 100
Where
million.
did now come from, by the way?
Now came from, and I've actually got now tattooed on my arm.
Come on, look. See that Hoxo there? Look.
Yeah.
You're in the crew.
Yeah, mine's all up here. Yeah, big now.
Yeah.
Now came from me. It was everything I want to do was now. You got an idea. Let's do it. Let's do it now. When we started Australia, when we had a conversation about Australia, it was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it now. There's no tomorrow. There's no waiting. Just go.
I'm not sure that theory works. It doesn't work so well now, and it doesn't work so well, I think, in this business age. But at the time, it definitely
got you where you were.
It definitely works, and when you're younger, there's no doubt about it. You've definitely got a different level of energy, and a different level of priorities as well.
Yeah, completely different. So let's go back to Madison Group. So you sat there. You've just launched education. You've got construction. And you decide you're paying too much to payroll companies to let's launch one. So how did that go?
Yeah, good. No, really good. Took on a sales director, and it just naturally grew. There wasn't the competition you've got with umbrella companies that you've got today. And we could have a whole conversation about umbrella and payroll and how candidates are treated. And that's something I'm really, really passionate about.
I wanted to quickly interrupt this episode to update you on what it is I actually do all day, apart from the RAG podcast, of course. Now, most of you know from the episodes that I am the founder of Hoxo, right? What you probably don't know is that we're currently working with over 250 recruitment agencies and over 4,000 of their recruiters around the world in every continent, and helping these businesses brand themselves and the people in the company better. Now, we have built a creative team over the last 6 years that helps manage the creation of new agency brands. Obviously, a lot of the listeners in the RAG are starting their businesses for the first time. But more often than not, we rebrand tired companies. So many businesses we work with are smashing it when it comes to revenue and performance, but their website and their online story was built back when they started for like 500 quid, and it just does not represent who they are today. So we believe getting that right building a brand becomes your anchor. Now, every good brand also needs traffic, right? You need people to see it, to come to the website, see you online, and that's where your people come in. So we work to either manage the personal brands of your team, or we can teach you how to build the brand yourselves. All of it is designed to give you consistency on LinkedIn that helps you stand out from the competition, show your personality, show and add value, and ultimately make more money. Now, I personally speak to potential new customers along with my business partner, Amma. So I would love to spend some time with you, my RAG listeners that I potentially don't even know yet. Any of you that are interested in building a brand that's fit for purpose in 2023 and beyond, come and speak to us. Just click the link in the show notes, fill in the form, and we will be in touch with you within 48 hours to book a 30 minutes video call ASAP. Right, back to the show. Well, I actually interviewed a couple of weeks ago Mike Lee, the founding partner of a company called Worker Group, which was sold. And it wasn't a recruitment firm, but it was a really interesting podcast because they're actually really cool businesses. They sound like amazing cash cows in terms of generating revenue. So you grew that business was growing alongside the others.
Yeah, it just grew organically. It just, a lot of at the time it was the workers that were driving it. So the workers would go to another agency and it would just grow. I mean,
you were almost getting revenue from competition now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I wasn't involved in the business on a day-to-day, even though it was in the same office that I was based. We got that business over to 100 million revenue. Margins were low, but it was still making around net profit £3 or £4 million a year. It is a low return, sort of 2-3% return. But a massive cash cow, massive, especially when 2008 came and you had the recession. and it hit us all overnight. That did really help the rest of the business. With
what year did you launch the Madison Group? What year was that?
So that would have probably been 1999.
Right. So you're about 10 years into your career-ish.
Yeah.
What was the number of people in the other businesses at that point? How many did you have? Do you think? Again, don't
roughly around 60 to 70 people, and we were in Australia. So if you count them, about 70 people.
So when did you launch Australia? Before Madison?
No, during Madison. So Australia was launched. Sorry, Sean, I'm really bad with dates. So if we go back 16 years, 2000. 1990, actually probably just before Madison.
So let's say
2007, I think, Australia.
Oh, that's after Madison was 99. We said so. That's
sorry.
2007. So one question I've got for you is around your role, right? At this point, so if think about, I can imagine your role in the very early days. You're the absolute. You're on the phone. You're driving everything.
Yeah.
You then get to 40 people, 50 people, 60 people, 70 people. What does your role become at that point when you're in your 20s still? You still got all this fucking energy. You're a bit of a control freak. You've said it. I mean, we can all empathize pretty much listening to it. But the biggest problem I see in our sector is people never get beyond 10 people because they're such a control freak that everything has to go through them, and everyone around them just becomes glorified admin or resources, right? They never get to So what did you do that made sure that it didn't go that way? You actually scaled really well. You developed even in your early 20s when you didn't have necessarily the life experience. You still managed it.
We did, but the place where I was based, mainly in Birmingham, I got it wrong. So I didn't. So the offices that are off site, I'd speak to them every day, and we're having lots of phone calls, but you're not in there controlling the culture and generating the culture. And I think in Birmingham, where we had a really big office, probably had got 20 recruiters. I can't be sure, but I think I was. Don't get me wrong, it performed well, but then you had a lot of, as we do in recruitment, we've got a lot of princesses and a lot of kings or princes. And I think because I was based there, I think because I was based in Birmingham all the time, that office, I actually didn't engage with the culture, and I didn't shape it and replicate it. I let them just get on with it.
Right.
When I went to the other offices, if I got to Edinburgh or Newcastle, I'd work with that team for the day, and they'd get all my time for the day. Yeah. Or a couple of days.
And there was somebody else leading that culture on a daily basis.
Yeah, and even though I wasn't we had a manager or a director level person in Birmingham, I think because I was based there every day, I didn't actually work with them.
No.
But they'd come to me if they needed something. We deal with issues as they happened, and that's not like working with a team and giving people dedicated time. It's like today we sit down with people, and I had breakfast with a pal the other day, and I hadn't seen him for ages, and I said, Tone, you're going to put your phone away.
Yeah,
just 45 minutes together, just me and you. And I think we're all guilty for that. And that's one thing. I have meetings with people. I don't want your phones on. You can check them every hour, but let's give each other time. And I think that's when we did give each other time. And that's the mistake we made in Birmingham.
So what was the byproduct of your that activity from you? What was symptomatic in that business that wasn't being evident in the others?
In Birmingham,
yeah.
I think it's just, I think I would walk in with the world on my shoulders, and I would wear it on my face, and I would probably be a bit of an ignorant prick and ignore people because.
What was the impact? I meant, what did you see in that business that showed you were causing something?
The impact was, what's he going to be like this morning? What's he going to? Not that I'd walk in shouting or anything like that, but our body language is more. Yeah. Comes across more than our verbal language, and I think I probably set the scene for the day in the office. Oh God, he's in a right foul mood, and instead of coming in and it's like, hang the foul mood on the door. Yeah. We've all got problems. Tell me someone who hasn't got a problem. And then, okay, I was a young guy still. We've learned all these things, which is great, and you can pass all this knowledge on to people now. But hang it on the door and walk in with a smile on your face, because a big smile on your face saying good morning, how are you, and how's your day going to be? Or it makes such a difference of showing interest in people.
So the impact was was it just not performing as high? People were a bit more inconsistent, or there was turnover. Yeah. Like, was the stuff that was happening?
There was turnover, toxic culture, subcultures, all the, and the other thing, we was on 3 floors as well, so you had 3 cultures.
Yeah. It's really difficult though, isn't it? I think, if I look at my business, we're nowhere near your level. I look at my career. I'm 36 now. 10 years ago, I'm joining my London recruitment firm to really take my career to the next level. And I was that guy. I was the top biller. I became a leader, a manager, and I was a bit like, the mood of me would impact the team. I know it did, and I used to actively, because my boss used to tell me. So I used to literally stop myself before going in the office and say, right, Sean, like, come on, smile now. And I tried, but I still was the kind of guy that could kill or make the room if I was in the right mood or not.
Yeah.
And now I think I brought that into Hoxo in London when we were pre-pandemic. We were in an office. I think I was probably pretty similar. I can probably be a bit like that now, but because I'm on Zoom and we're remote, I don't really have the opportunity to negatively impact people so much. Like, I might only see them a couple of times a day for 15 or 30 minutes. I find it easier to like turn it on Zoom, and then I can turn the camera off and be like crying into my microphone and the dogs. So yeah, I think it actually works well for me personally being remote. I think because of that, because I'm not. Yeah, I'm the sort of guy that can definitely affect a mood. So what went on then? So you did you spot that and you made change? How did that evolve, that situation?
And I think, I know we're sort of jumping around on the years here, but I think 2008 was a real big change for me when we had the recession, and we were probably doing, I think in Birmingham, a split of temp and perm, mainly temp contract. But our perm revenue book across the business went from sort of 150K that month to sort of 10. And that's like 1.3, 1.4 million of margin over the year gone.
Wow.
I'd already started making some changes in the business.
Were you already in Australia at this point?
We had the business in Australia as well, yeah.
So you've grown from the point of what we talked about before. You've grown in the UK, you've launched overseas.
Yep.
And then we hit the global financial crisis.
Yeah, I think in Australia we had Melbourne and Sydney at the time. In the UK, we probably got 5 or 6 offices. We had Madison Group. And we just got hit, as a lot of companies did, August 2008. That's when it hit us, and it hit us really, really hard. I had something like 6,000 square feet. I think we even had an industrial recruitment business at the time. We had 6,000 square feet in Birmingham, 2 buildings, which I didn't need all the space, and I just went into. I guess one of my skill sets is I'm not a panicker, so it's just be really methodical about things and look at everything level. You've got a level of it's not difficult. It's people think you're ruthless, but you're not, because you've got to protect other people and you've got to protect your own business. And you've got a level of margin you're working with. And if that level of margin is forecasting for the next 6 to 12 months, then that's the level of margin you're working with. And you've got to bring your costs in line and below. And that is as simple as that. And you've got to sit going through that profit and loss.
One question that is going through my mind as we say this, because I've been, we business owners be there, but what did you do with the EBIT for the years before? Because you've been going for a while. Did you save that? Did you spend it? Was it accessible? Was it liquid? Did it get a runway, or was it a?
We were quite liquid, which was good. So we had a good
war chest.
War chest, yeah. We had a good war chest. But it's like anything. It's
don't mean you want to see it go down.
No, you don't want to see it go down. And recruitment is a business where great billers will bill through any season and any environment and anything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
An average biller will struggle and a weak biller will die.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to look, and you've got to forecast how long this was going to last for, which I did. And come 2008, 2009, we went into one of our best years because everybody was just billing, and we got rid of the costs, or a lot of the costs, a lot of dead wood. And I think recruitment's that yo-yo effect, isn't it? We are very good at letting people go when you need to, and then you've got to hire again. In 2008, that really opened my eyes up to the people, the good people around me that wanted to build, wanted to make it happen, wasn't imposed in politics and office politics and things like that. And that's where we really then started to make a difference.
So, how quick? If you think about the way 2008 hit you, how quick did you make those decisions to pull teams away or cut some costs?
Overnight.
Was it?
Yeah,
What did you have to do?
it wasn't executed overnight, but the decision was made. I made it overnight, and not just on a whim. It was literally spending hours with the FD, going through line by line by line by line by line. You know, can we save a job? Can we get rid of that piece of software that we're not using? Are we contracted into that? You know, how can we reduce that cost line? And then it was, once we'd spent sort of 12 hours doing that, then we set a plan to execute it, which probably took about 2 or 3 weeks. But then you didn't see that impact on cost saving for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And your Australia business that you'd created before that, why did you go to Oz? Because that is a big move. It's the other side of the planet, right?
So as a young guy, Donald Stout worked for me in Edinburgh, and he worked for me for about 7 or 8 years. Good trades, construction recruiter. And he left the business to go to Australia pre-Sydney Olympics. And I had a phone call one day, and it was Donald, and he said, "Hi Gary, it's Don. I'm back in Edinburgh." I said, "All right. How was Sydney? You know, usual chit chat." He says, "Oh, great, but I split up with a girlfriend that I went with, and I'll come back with an Australian girlfriend, and we're going to settle in Edinburgh. Have you got anything?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Look, we're actually expanding the white collar side of construction. We're now based not far from the city in Edinburgh." I said, "Should we catch up?" Hooked up. He started the white collar division, started doing really, really well. About 9 months later, I was up in Edinburgh, and Donald said, "Gary, can I have a chat?" I said, "Yeah, of course." He said, "I need to leave the business." I was like, "Why, Don? You know, things are going really well. You've hit it running." And he says, "Oh, Anna's not settling in the UK. We're going back to Sydney." I said, "What are you going to do?" And this is a true story, right? Because what are you going to do? He says, "I don't know. I'll get a job in Edinburgh." So, well, why don't we set something up together in Australia? And he says, "You're serious?" "Yeah, why not? Sounds fucking exciting."
And you've watched him do it. You know he can set a division up from scratch because he's just done it.
Yeah, he did it. So he flew out in the June, July that year. I flew out in the November, December with my wife. And then I went out again probably in the January, February, and we sorted offices out. We sorted all the financing out. We set the business up, and we took that business from sort of zero to it was mainly perm revenue, doing around $3 million a year perm revenue, million profit.
Nice.
It did really well through the recession, 2008. We had a massive contract with Multiplex. We expanded into Melbourne. That never went well for us. Melbourne was a real tough city for us to crack. We never cracked it, but we did really well in Brisbane.
Right.
And then we had, and then eventually the business was changing.
How long were you out there?
So I was going out there for 16 years. So I was going out there sort of 3 or 4 times a year. And it does get, you know, people think it's fun. And it was fun. I mean, Donald's wife used to say, I dreaded when you come over, because she wouldn't see Donald for a week. He just moved into my hotel room. I'd be wearing my underpants and stuff like that. You know, it's just like boys on tour. But obviously,
sounds great.
You're out of that. You know, you go out of that. And I mean, at one point, I was flying into Sydney on a Monday morning and flying back out on a Thursday night. So, the fun started going out of it. And Donald had different view for the business. I mean, it's very difficult to manage a business the other side of the world and be involved in the culture. And we really expanded it. We were in the CBD. We had some beautiful offices. We had a team of around 30 odd people, including marketing and back office and stuff like that. But he wanted to turn it into more of a lifestyle business. It's all about what lifestyle, and that wasn't for me.
You wanted to think about taking the money and using it and enjoying it, and
and we had Greg Savage got involved with the business for a while, which for me didn't work out too well for us, and eventually we agreed on a figure, and Donald bought me out.
Is he still running it now?
Yeah.
Is it called Now, or has he changed it name?
Yeah, it's called Now Careers. Yeah.
Wow, must be weird seeing your brand abroad that's not yours anymore.
Well, I have to be honest. Now, the way where Now Careers came from. So when we set up Now Careers in Australia, we were Now Recruitment in the UK. Right. And when we set up Australia, we tried to get Now Recruitment, but we wasn't allowed to use the word recruitment. So we used the word careers, which I actually thought sounded much cooler. So when I come back after a few different trips to Australia, we rebranded Now Recruitment to Now Careers. So Now Careers, I guess, was founded in in Australia.
Over the 16 years, we'll go into that in a minute. Over 16 years of growing in Australia, what happened here? Like, so what's your life like, and what's the business doing here? Because you've got Madison Group, you've got education, you've got construction, you've got white collar, blue collar, you've got all these offices. You're flying over there, and he's doing what he's doing. But what was the baby doing over here?
Yeah, so education was only a small part of our business, 3 or 4 people, and I walked in one day, and the manager, Teresa, came to me and says, "Gary, I need to speak to you urgently. I've got to leave, and I'm leaving today." She was South African, and she was going. Something happened with the family. She was going to South Africa that day. And during this period, I'd recruited a guy called Alex Westworth, who is now the managing director of Now Education. I met Alex through his ex-girlfriend. She was doing PT, so I used to be quite. I got some pictures. I'll send you a picture afterwards. She want a fat Gary.
Right.
So I was going to the gym, and she was doing PT for me, and I got chatting to her, and I said, "Oh, my son's really struggling for A-level with his A-level maths." She said, "Oh, my boyfriend's a economics teacher, a maths teacher."
Right.
So Alex came over to the house and started doing tutoring with Thomas. Got talking to him. He was a bit of a geeky kid, very intelligent, very highly intelligent. And he said, being a teacher, I'm not going to be able to have a nice barn conversion or a Ferrari or this. He said, I want what you've got. So Alex came into the business. We were going to set up a funding company for small recruitment agencies, but it all went south in 2008. And then he worked in more of a commercial role. Anyway, Teresa had left. I said to Alex, "Why don't you take on education?"
He knows the world anyway.
Yeah. I said, he said, "I'm not a salesman, so you don't need to be a salesman. You know education." Anyway, he took it on. That division that year lost 70,000 as a division. Wow. The second year, Alex had been running it. We turned a 70,000 profit.
In terms of education in the pandemic, in the 2008 recession, because that's when I got into education. I was working as a teacher in 2008, 9, 10. Surely that market wouldn't have been hit very hard, because
it wasn't hit that hard. But if you look at the spend, the national spend on recruitment went down because more people were going into teaching because the commercial world had slowed down.
Yeah, I mean, I remember being on supply though that in 2008, and I was booming. I was being phoned every 5 minutes by it. It was a bonkers. It was a busy market, and I remember the credit crunch, as people called it. I didn't know what it was because I didn't feel it. I was completely. Again, I'm earning 20 grand or something. I was 17 grand. I wasn't like earning good money, but at the time when you're 21, I was like, "So what's going on in the economy? What do you mean? Like, I'm having a great time. Things are great. Like, I'm busy. It works good." So I can imagine that business unit wouldn't have flopped or struggled as much as others in that period.
No, it didn't. It grew, and in 2012. 2011, 2012, I could see what education was doing, the margin it was making, and Alex's ability. And I dragged Alex to one side and said, "Look, I'm going to take education away from now careers and put it into its own limited company and give you equity and a couple of other guys equity into that business as well."
And that's where Now Education came from.
And that's where Now Education came from. And Alex grew that business up to sort of 2018, 19. Around 9 million sales with 1.3 million profit.
And he was the MD of that.
He was the MD of that, yeah, and a big biller. He's not a biller anymore. And then with education, you can only get so much market, right, in any sector. In Birmingham, I'd say we've probably got sort of 15-20% of the market of education market in Birmingham. It's 15 recruiters in Birmingham. All doing extremely well, all been with the business sort of minimum 7 to 8 years. We retain our staff, but then we had to really look at how are we going to scale this business up? How are we going to scale Now Education? And that's when we come up with the equity model, which I've done obviously in Australia. I've done a little bit in Now Careers, and I'm a great believer of I'd rather own 51% or 60% of something that's worth X amount than 100% of something where I've got all the problems.
Yeah.
And by giving equity, one, they drive it harder if you get the right people, and two, you do share the problems. That people carry the problems with you. They share those problems.
Their responsibility, isn't it? It's their business.
Yeah. So that's what we've done with education. Now we've set this equity model up for education, and we've grown that business through lockdown from a £12 million business to a £30 million business.
So does that mean all the staff are then on the road to one day earning equity or whatever?
No. So how we operate, Sean, is so we have now Education Group, and now Education Group will give 25% equity to each of its subsidiary companies. So, for example, we've got Now Education Birmingham, Now Education Nottingham, Now Education Cardiff, Now Education Liverpool, soon to be Now Education London. So we give up to 25%, and that can be split. We won't give it to one person. We want at least two, usually three. So you usually have two that are more higher equity, and then the third person probably a quite minority shareholder. And the reason we do that is we explain to people, recruitment is, at the moment, there's more recruitment companies for sale than any time before. Hundreds of recruitment companies for sale. And they all believe they've got this £1 million or £2 million EBITDA. But then when we actually drill down into these businesses, a lot of the owners are taking dividends, and they're taking this and they're taking that. And they're not actually got £1 million or £2 million EBITDA. It's more like £500,000. And what's a potential buyer looking for in a business? If you're going to attract an international buyer and you want to get a multiple of 8 to 10 times, then you need an EBITDA of 10 million. If you want to get private equity, then you need to be at sort of 5 million, taking it to 8 and looking for an exit. And that's, as we know, a lot of people struggle to get past 10 people with infrastructure, controls, money, whatever it might be. So our model is to build a business by giving equity, and that equity growth obviously will increase our value and eventually increase our multiple. So this year we're at 4.3. Within 3 years, our growth plan will be at 7.7.
Is that just education?
Just education. Just education.
And they're all part of the Now Education Group. So it'll be sold. It will eventually be sold as a group if it gets sold. And
yeah, and it's all
of those. Yeah.
Yeah, we can't just like wake up this morning and go, do you know what? Let's sell London because that's doing well, and we can put a few quid in our pocket. We're not allowed to do that. It's all structured in a true and ethical way. And it's not phantom shares. They've got their own limited company, and they get ownership of it. They feel like ownership of it. Once we put the investment in, and then once we get to a position, we'll capitalize that investment as a loan. And then when the balance sheet gets to a certain value, they start earning dividends, and that feels real to them. I'm getting quarterly dividends. This is real.
Yeah,
and it really gives them empowerment.
Makes sense. So when we got to what year did you sell Australia, or you sold your shares? What year was that?
2019.
All right, so this is a great time. So we're just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Take us back to where you were as a group at that point.
So pre-pandemic as a group, Now Education was just Birmingham, and we were talking about our scalability model. Now Careers, we had Birmingham, which did a bit of accountancy, some IT, a lot of construction. Cardiff was HR, commercial, accountancy. Edinburgh, Newcastle was all construction, M&E. And I wanted my head was in a place where I've got this plan what we can do with education, and it was like, what do I want to do with careers, and where's my time, where's my headspace being taken? And I went for a walk up the field. And I'm sure I've told this story to the people that are involved. Well, I hope I have. So I went for a walk up the field, and I was going to Newcastle and Edinburgh on a regular basis and sitting with the two senior guys. We both had shares in their business units. And I walked up the field and I said to myself, if this was a job and this was my job and I was their area manager or area director, I would leave this business because of them. And they've worked for me for 20 years. And the reason I say that is not in a derogatory way about the guys or the people in the business, but they just wouldn't change. And they just didn't want to, we were taking, education team, we're starting talking, EBITDA, NFI, and they didn't want to get into this language. And I wanted to grow Now Careers as well.
Yeah.
So I knew somebody that would have been interested in buying it. So I made contact with them, and I did an asset sale, which went through just before we went into lockdown.
Wow.
It was a deal over 3 years, so we didn't come out of it great because of the trading period, but it literally went through So that had been January 20 went through, and I was just so pleased to upload.
So what does that business look like? Is that now a new name and someone else is coming?
It comes under now Dutton. So Dutton Recruitment bought it.
Right.
I've known Matt, the chairman of the group, for a long time. A good guy
from Sheffield.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that name.
Yeah. So he's a good guy. He's a good guy. So I knew the business was going to a good home, and the guys were going to do okay out of it over the 3-year period. So then I really started to focus on turning Birmingham and Cardiff into super branches.
So have you just got now education now then, or have you got another?
So now careers in Birmingham and Cardiff. I've got rid of the northern part, and we've got now education Birmingham.
Right.
So this is sort of around the January time,
going into the pandemic.
And we've hired a big IT team. I've hired accountancy team. We're talking to IT people in Cardiff. In the December we'd opened Cardiff education. In the January we'd opened education Nottingham, and in February, March we went into lockdown.
Yeah, it was a busy market. If you remember, it was a really good time.
Yeah. It was a bit of a shit show for us because we obviously got new brands going into on the career side. On the education side, they hadn't even started trading, and we got into a lockdown. So we had all these costs to cover, and obviously during that period we were in and out of lockdown, and then we opened the Northwest in 21, and the next day we went into lockdown again. But it's all come good.
So if we look at the lockdown period, then what impact did it have on you personally and the business? Because you're office based, I imagine at that point, probably quite traditional in the way you work, because it's how you've grown the companies.
Yeah.
What was the biggest impact like?
It was the biggest impact for me personally, because I had a heart condition, so I was isolating. So our kids, we had 2 children at home. They moved out into their boyfriend's house or boyfriend's parents' house, and it was just me and my wife at home. And then obviously a lot of Zoom calls and the whole furlough thing, which was a massive thing to deal with, especially on education.
Yeah.
We had around sort of at that time 600-700 candidates, and furlough was a job retention scheme, and it just constantly.
So you had to furlough your contractors, your temps.
Well, we when it first came out, it was a job retention scheme. So we said we'll furlough all the ones that are on long-term placements, not day-to-day, because they're not on a job. So how can we retain them? But as we know, the scheme just changed, and everybody just ended up getting furloughed. Yeah, we ended up furloughing the whole lot.
Wow.
And then you're obviously drinking too much. We had a great summer, didn't we? A great spring.
Really good weather, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. And we spent lots of time, the 4 o'clock announcements with Boris and his team, and I'd meet my team, and it'd be 1 o'clock at 4:30, and then it was like, I need to get back in the office. I need to get back in the office. So there's myself, Alex, the MD of education, our FD, and my PA. We went into the office every day, and we just.
Even when you weren't allowed?
Yeah, every day, and we just started. And obviously all spaced out and rubber gloves to toilets and all the rest of it. And we just spent time strategically planning. I mean, education, there wasn't a lot we could do. We had an amount of candidates being paid by schools still, so we were generating margin, a relative amount of margin, not massive, around 60k a week compared to sort of 200 a week, because schools were encouraged to pay their candidates if they're on long-term placements through agencies.
Yeah.
So we just spent the time just strategically looking at every detail of our business. And when we come out of this, what are we going to look like, and how are we going to manage it, and what does that structure look like, and how are we going to take now education from a 9 million business in 3 years to a 30 million pound business? And that's all we focused on, was the business model. And that's really when we really sort of got into the detail of the shared equity model. Because if I go out into the market, I phone you, Sean, headhunt you, and you're working for X education. Well, why are you going to leave? You've got a strong desk, you're getting good commission. I'm happy. But you start talking equity, you start showing them the vision, they start seeing it's real. I've even had meetings with people and they say, well, this is too good to be true. And I go, why? Well, why would you give anything away? Well, why wouldn't I? If you join me and I give you something and you give me something back in the form of profitability and a better equity value for my overall group, it's win-win.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I get it. And that's what we work on is win-win. And yeah, that's what, and during COVID, obviously people working at home, and then COVID stops and people still want to work at home, and we've all had those battles and demons to deal with.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Like you mentioned there about your health. Tell us a bit more about what you can share with that.
Yeah. So about 16 years ago, in fact, I just ran the LA Marathon, and before going to the LA Marathon, I had a medical for some life assurance, business assurance for Australia business. Yeah. And I come back to a letter saying that the insurance has been denied, and they want you to contact your doctor. They found a heart murmur. So I phoned the doctors up. I said, I've just come back from LA, just run the LA Marathon. I was doing lots of cycling and running and stuff. And so it's probably a bit of stress. We'll book you in for your ultra scan, this, that, and the other. I found out that my aortic valve was leaking. And in your aortic valve, you've got 3 valves. I only had 2. So I went to see the specialist, and he said, Gary, at some point you will need an operation. I stopped doing all the running, but kept fit, do a lot of cycling. And I was completely in denial. And every year I'd have to go for this test. And every year it slightly get worse and slightly just be stable. And then February, what year are we in now? 23. So I had the operation November 21. So February 21, I went for an MRI that was supervised by a heart surgeon. And he said, you need an operation, and you need it not now, but soon. We need to get you in. And obviously with the whole COVID thing, trying to get that booked in was quite horrific. So my operation, I went into hospital on November the 22nd. I was just dropped off at the door and walked in on your own. And on November the 23rd, I had open heart surgery, 10-hour operation to replace my aortic valve, which is mechanical now. And at the same time, my daughter was down the corridor having a baby.
Wow. In the same hospital?
Same hospital, yeah.
Oh
yeah. God. And he was born on the 24th.
So you woke up to a grandson, basically?
Yeah. I did actually, yeah.
How long were you knocked out for?
I actually knocked out for nearly 24 hours. And
one thing, I mean, look, health scares the crap out of me. I'm going to be brutally honest. Like, it really is the one thing that I'm scared of. And I've heard a lot of entrepreneurs talk about it. Like you're in control of a lot of things. We like control. That's why we do what we do. And that's the one thing. Yeah, you can stay fit, you can train, you can run. I mean, I do something every day. I eat pretty well. I've probably not been the best over the last few weeks, but I'd consider myself a fit, healthy person. But
yeah,
how did you deal with that situation personally? Like, because again, I imagine you're very similar. You're out there, you're so active, you're running businesses all over the world, you're unstoppable, and then the doctor says no, you've got to fucking take some action here.
Yeah, it was a difficult time, and we were actually launching some videos about it on LinkedIn over the next few weeks. I'm doing some charity work, and we've done some promo stuff for it. But yeah, it's especially when nobody can come and see you. I just remember being on the, they come and see you and they probably give you something to calm you down. And I remember being on the trolley going down to the theatre, and they take you to the anaesthesia part. And I said, guys, can I be honest with you? And they went, yeah, of course, Gary, of course. I went, I'm fucking terrified. I'm absolutely terrified. They went, Gary, at this stage, we've got people off the trolley and they're running down the corridor. And they're just talking to you and they're asking you what you do at work. And the next thing you know, you're out, gone.
Yeah.
Then the only thing, I always think it was 2:00 in the morning for some reason, but the next thing is they're waking me up and they're pulling tubes out my throat. And I'm wired up to a load of machines, and I've got one-to-one care. But I was out of intensive care within 24 hours. And yeah, then you come home and I have to be honest that I was at home for 3 or 4 months, and I didn't think about work for the first month. I didn't care about it. And actually, it was probably the most peaceful time of my life in the last 20 odd years, because I just didn't care. I just cared.
What is happening in the business? Is it just the leaders are running it, and it's just
yeah. And I just didn't. I didn't take any calls. I didn't have my phone. I just, I thought I looked all right. My wife said I looked ill, and she was waking up at night, watching me breathe to make sure I was breathing still. And, I'd get up in the morning, have a shower, and I'd need to sleep. And so, yeah, it was a tough time, but yeah, I was fit. I went in there fit, and I'm getting back to strength again. And hopefully I can start doing some of the things that I enjoy doing outside of work. Sort of, I enjoy motor racing and other sport activities and stuff like that. Some things I can't do now because of the medication.
What are you not allowed to do now?
Can't get wasted, as in like really, really drunk, which is really bad. Which is actually, to be fair, it's really good. It's really, really good because your cut-off point, you have a couple of drinks and that's it. And you sort of look at other people and you get early nights and you feel better the next day.
Yeah.
So I can't do any, I used to do sort of, nothing physical contact sport, but I used to like doing Muay Thai, like the workouts on the pads and stuff like that. But you bruise a lot on the shins and that can cause internal bleeding. So anything that's...
Can you run? Could you do another run?
Yeah, run. Yeah, I'm cycling. I'm back out on the bike, sort of, doing sort of 40-mile rides. I'm in the gym most days. I'm hoping to get. I've been back behind the wheel of I can drive and all that sort of stuff, but I've been back on the track. I'm just waiting to see if I can get my license back, my race license. I'm doing, and then I guess it's like, I'd like to do horse riding, but they say that's too risky. If you fell off, it could cause a lot of damage internally.
Yeah, you're pretty high up there, right? Well, I mean, you crash your fucking car, you can as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then I just have to do blood tests every week, check my blood that they're in range.
Every week? Is that forever now? You'll have to do that?
Yeah, and I'm on medication forever. But it's just, for me, it's just life as normal. My heart ticks. When you're stressed, when you're really stressed, because our heart, it's asking for, our body's asking for more blood, but my valve's metal, so you can really feel it.
Interrupting today's episode for a message from our sponsor, Vincere. Now, the year of 2022 was amazing for Vincere, and recruiters were a huge part of it. Check out their new microsite, which is a scroll down memory lane and a real thank you to the community that work with Vincere. The link is www.vincere.io/year-in-review-2022. Link in the show notes. If you're a Vincere customer, I think this is amazing that they're calling you out and giving you the credit. If you're not a Vincere customer, you probably should be. Give it a look. Right, back to the show. My mother-in-law's just had a stroke a few years ago, and she's wheelchair bound, and she broke her foot on holiday in the summer. She got up in the night, and my father-in-law helped her to the toilet, and she slipped. And she's a big woman. She hit the floor. She broke her foot. Anyway, went to hospital in Turkey, and they really misdiagnosed the whole thing. They just put it in this shoe. She'd broken like 2 bones, and it needed surgery and all this thing. She gets home, and they put a metal rod through the heel of right through her heel into a shin, like the back of her shin.
Yeah.
And now her body, because of the time it took to get that right, her body's rejected it, and she's like, it's the same as you said there. She says, like, your body, everything in your body, even bones have got a little bit of give and a bit of movement. Yeah. And this rod is like, she can just feel it constantly. And they've took it out last week. They're going down a different route now. So yeah, I can. It's not the first time I've heard stuff like that. Yeah. So if we go back to coming back to the business then. So you said, look, I took some time out, peaceful time. When was the trigger to say, well, actually now's the time to get back in?
Probably after about 2 or 3 months, I probably went back to work too early, but I just wanted to get back into the business. We'd gone through, and we're still going through sort of some furlough stuff, or not furlough, some lockdown stuff. We started new business locations. I just wanted to get a real grasp on what was going on. And I just got straight back into it. Probably still,
too early.
And I think what I did is made myself accessible too early. People started calling on me.
People take you up on it, don't they?
Yeah. You're
available, bang.
Yeah. And that was, looking back at it, I probably needed a bit more time out of the business. Yeah.
So then 2022 comes around, you're back in the business.
Yeah.
12 months ago. Talk us through the last year before we then look at the future.
Yeah. So the last year has been, we've had a couple of, the marketplace has changed on the career side. So our IT side does a lot in America. So the deals, the amount of deals that are going through at the moment have calmed right down. Construction housing, we do a lot of white collar. We've seen likes of Taylor Wimpey, some of the larger organisations make redundancies and sort of put a freeze on recruitment. Accountancy and finance is still massive demand for accountancy finance. So we're sort of not sort of locking down the shutters on that business, and we're about to launch a new website in May and a whole new brand that we've actually been working with Amar on, team, which has been exciting. I did look at another business venture to go into technology for education. We're having some difficulties with that, especially with getting the agencies on board.
Right.
That's a challenge. And education, we've got another 3 or 4 starters this week across the business. We're in London later today, meeting with another team down there. So hopefully we'll be launching in London in the next 3 months. And
what's driving you now? So, like you mentioned it before, the Ferrari, the houses. Like, I know I've seen you online. Like, I know you live a really cool life. You've got money. You're successful. You've been through all sorts of shit, personally, professionally. Like, why are you bothering, Gary? Like, I don't think I'd be any different, because I kind of know the answer, I think, but I want to know from you, why are you still bothered?
People say, oh, you're successful. I think because I come from nothing, absolutely nothing, and I always fear I'm going to lose it all.
I have the same feeling.
I'm a terrible, terrible worrier. I worry about everything. And sometimes, I think I'll just sell the whole lot and then I won't have any worries, but then I'll probably find something else to worry about. I'm a terrible worrier, and why some people might think you don't care about them. I really care about people. And like now, for me in business is of course, making profits great, and as an individual, and Sean, I listen to the shows, and some of the guys have been so successful. I do think, what the fuck have I been doing? But we've got a nice home, we've got nice stuff. We don't really need for anything. So I'm driven by being part of something, by delivering something, by creating something. I don't manage people. I'm not a very good manager. I'm like a tennis coach. Yeah. So I can tell a tennis player how to go and play tennis, but I can't play tennis myself. I'm not going to win Wimbledon, and I'm not a good manager. I'm the most inconsistent manager in the world. So I don't try and manage people, but I'm good at working with people. And if I can work with the right people, so our MD Alex, he's an incredible character. He'd be worth getting on the show. He's got very, very great viewpoints on the education sector. He's great to work with, and the team all the teams I'm working with now are all great teams to work with. If it gets to the point I've got to really start managing somebody, I have to think about letting them go, because they're not going to get my time. I'll give them for a bit, and then if they don't grasp it, the relationship's not going to work for me, and I don't want it to be painful for them or for me. So my drivers are to, I don't know, make a difference where I can. And most of our equity model is for the younger people, between sort of 30 to 40 people, and if they were working for a corporate, they're probably not going to, corporates have this thing, come and do recruitment, come and earn a load of money. Our average margin per head a week in education is £7,700 a week, average margin. Our competitors, like teachers, teaching personnel, they don't want their recruiters doing that. They're doing £2,500 a week. We know teaching personnel protocol at any one time are training 50 trainees. We're not. We don't have staff turnover. Of course, people leave. They have life changes. But recruitment should be about, we find out what people want. Our average margin in our careers is £6,500 a week. Again, way more than our competitors, or not all of in the sectors we're in. We're in. So we really try and find, and this whole working at home thing, we've had to give and take a bit on that. But me and you today are training for a marathon. Okay, and we do exactly the same hours, exactly the same amount of training. You train on your own, and I'm going to train with a team. I'm going to beat you. There's no doubt about it. If you're with a team, you're going to achieve more. But it's how you get that team to work in the right way together. Mm-hmm. And we have got flexibility in our business, and we have given the people the choice from different offices how to design their flexibility. Yeah. But we trust them. Everybody starts on trust, and because they want to do the job, if we've got to keep phoning them. I saw somebody last week, and their bosses or the MD counts the amount of clicks they do per day on their computer. I mean, who wants to work in that environment?
That's fucking wrong, that is.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah. Even I mean, there's KPIs and then there's just being a lunatic, and that's being a fucking lunatic.
KPIs. Those of us go to the gym. You can do so many reps, do this, do a run. It's all KPI led.
Yeah.
You've got organisations going, Gary, I need you to make calls to clients, but I've got no product.
Yeah.
You still need to do these KPIs, but I've got no product. Set my KPI for what is going to make me money.
Yeah.
And that's what we do as a business. Nobody's KPI is the same. And because other people, and it's like a runner, Sean, you run a lot, so you could probably run quick. You might only need to do 3 runs a week, or I need to do 5 to keep it your pace. We've all got different skill sets.
Pace ain't my thing, Gary. I'll be honest. I run a lot, but I'm still I'm not. I find it weird running. I don't have any reason to compete with anyone on all I try and do is consistently. I'm not. I've got a mate, Keith, who's got me into it, and the guy's running marathons, and he's incredible. But I've got no desire to emulate him. I just like running. I just enjoy going out and getting the fresh air. It's weird. Other parts of my life, I'm super competitive, but in that, I'm not. Interesting. So I'm really worried about time. We're gonna have 10 minutes or so, and I could carry on with this for hours. There's 2 things in my head now, right? There's the Gary. There's 2 topics I want to cover before we finish. One is where you're heading. What's the vision? Where do we think things are going to go? And the second is a bit about your life, because you've mentioned your wife was with you at 19. She's in the gym now. That really, really inspires me as a 36-year-old who's got married, a few months ago. I want to just dig into that a little bit. But let's do the business first. Where are we heading? What's the vision? What's your North Star? Because we can bring you back on and see how we're getting on against it.
Yeah. So the next, we're obviously going to grow each year. And obviously, we talked about that we're opening in London. So on Now Education, our target in 4 years is to be is to double the EBITDA,
right?
And that will come from organic growth and probably 1 acquisition.
Okay.
And if you look at the model, there's probably, if you look at the education sector, it's not a growing sector. To get more market share, you've got to take more market share. But if you take the market, probably 35 to 40% of it is taken up with probably 15 to 20 companies. The rest of all that spend is taken up from mama and papa, lifestyle business. So there's opportunity there. So we've got 1 acquisition in the next 3 to 4 years, but we'll go heading towards an EBITDA of £8 million.
And then at that point, you would look for an exit strategy, or would it be an event to then go again?
So for me, I'll probably be looking for an exit strategy. But what I would like to, Alex and the FD have got shares in group. Alex is only 42, 43. I would think I would like to see him capitalize an element of his, and then he'd have the ability to go again, and then perhaps get what I potentially could get in the first round. But that'd be down to
Would you want to stay in as like chairman or something, do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I probably fiddle too much, wouldn't I? I just mess around with it too much. And then now careers, we're going to grow that business over the next 3 years, heading north towards an EBITDA of 2 million. So nothing major. It'll be a nice tidy thing, and the equity piece. Hopefully, everybody can
sell it all as one, or would you split them up?
No, they're separate companies, and that's going to be very, very different buyers or investors. Yeah.
So what does that mean for you then? So you're going to end up with a lot of money. You've already got a lot of money, but you end up with a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with it?
So I'm working on some. I'm not tech based, and I'm probably a little bit thick. I mean, I've got no exams. I left school. I was asked to leave school. I was a troublesome child. I thought I was going to be a footballer, so I was a bit of a big head.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. But yeah, I was asked to leave school. So, but I've really got this. I've really got a passion around the education sector, and not just about the recruitment side, but when I work with trusts and go and see trusts and schools, of the mistakes they're making on spend and how they control it, and how some of the agencies actually abuse the schools and trusts with their margins. I think nobody we don't talk about profit. We don't talk about the things we've got in this country. The amount of people drive. If I do drive a Ferrari, and it's not a car I drive every day, but I'm not embarrassed to say, I've got a Ferrari. But the amount of people that call you a wanker because you drive that car, but they don't know me.
No.
And I don't react to it. but we don't talk about those things. But working in trusts and schools, I just believe I could add such a difference working in those trusts and schools and give them technology and data to try and help manage some of the costs. So I'm working on that at the moment as well. We've launched one part of it. We've been trialing it. It's got a bit of kickback from agencies who don't want to get involved with it.
Is this going to be something that you do after sale, or is this going to be part of the sale and then you're off completely?
Probably be something that I'll continue with afterwards. Yeah, I mean, we're starting it now, but it's something we'll build up. But we're going to get our own developers and develop something. The model we took, Sean, was very much like an RPO model, and I think it was too much for the education market. It was too much change. But trust needs something to manage their costs. When I sat down with this trust, and we went through all their data from trading from one term. You thought I'd invented candy, the data I was giving them, and showing them the spend per school, the margins per agency. You thought I was giving them things. And also very passionate how education candidates are looked after, especially by agencies and umbrella companies, and they're pushed through. That's probably another conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm still passionate about business. It's probably about making a difference. And
yeah.
And
what about, so, like you said, you're married for that long. You got kids, you got grandchildren.
Yeah.
Like, how do you approach your life outside? How do you make sure that is not? How have you made sure that's not gone and suffered? Because the amount of entrepreneurs that have been super successful, but everything else has gone to shit because they can't balance it. What would you say? Again, this is another hour or 2 hour podcast on its own. If we can spend 5 minutes, how have you approached those years and try to ensure that you've got that right?
Yeah. So the early days were very difficult because we never had the technology we've got now to run a business. So you're in the office a lot and in the car a lot. So I don't really remember the kids growing up as little ones. We had lots of holidays. I bought another story. I bought an apartment in Tenerife, but I can tell you about years where I had 3 houses and 3 massive mortgages and didn't know where the next penny was coming from for anything. Yeah. That's another good fun story. So we had lots of holidays. We made sure we got lots of holidays. Again, you're working a lot. And myself and my wife both come from backgrounds where we got married so young because we wasn't happy at home. And we said that when we have kids, our kids' lives are going to be just so much fun. So as a family, we spend so much time together still now. I mean, my son's 32. He's got 2 girls. My daughter's 13 in May. She's gay and married. Bethan's 20. In fact, I think Bethan's 30 next year. She's 28, 29. I'm not very good with the ages. And Sarah's 23.
Right.
And got a little boy. So as a family, we've sort of built our house. We live in the country in a barn, and we call it the clubhouse outside. We had it built, and it's got a proper bar in there and stuff, and it's like the family, and everybody came around the weekend to watch the Grand Prix and have dinner, and we just spend,
Does everyone live close enough to you?
Yeah, apart from my daughter Rebecca, she lives in Essex, so she's a veterinary nurse. She lives in Essex with her partner. So yeah, don't be wrong, it's not been plain sailing, and we all make mistakes, and you get caught up in the world of going drinking, especially in recruitment and entertaining your staff and doing worldwide trips and doing all these things that we think are going to motivate people, but they actually don't. But now I really focus on, the family is such a massive part of me. I love seeing them. Our little grandson Alfie's got potential development issue and could be in a wheelchair. So, I want to do whatever I can do for him. And I work with the Birmingham's Children's Hospital, which looks after children all over the UK, and if not, some parts of the world. I'm taking a tuk-tuk in July from John O'Groats to Land's End for charity. So 1,000 miles in a 200cc tuk-tuk.
You'll love that. If you're a bit of a petrol head, you're going to love it.
Yeah, I went across India. I went across India in a tuk-tuk.
Gary, we need a part 2 with all the stories. Been too business focused, I think, this one.
Yeah. So again, you want to add. You just want to try and add where you can, don't you? And that's where I'm at in life. It's of course. And the money side of it's really, really important to me, but it's not the first thing I'll go into thinking about.
No. What do you think that allows you? What has it allowed you to build for the family and for your wife? What do you think it's enabled you to do?
I guess give them a lifestyle that they never had and never dreamed of. And my kids are really good. They don't come asking for money and stuff like that. Okay, I look after them the best I can. I've got friends in the same position as me, and say you're mad. Let the kids just go off on their own. We managed to put them through private school, but when they went through private school back in those days, we were struggling. It was like, oh, for God's sake, fucking school bills are due, and you're like, where are we going to get the money from? And you literally was scrapping around to pay the fees. Okay, it's a nice position to be in, to scrap around to be able to put your kids in fees. But again, it's because I'd worked for it and worked a lot of hours and took a lot of risk. Over the years, we've had huge amount of bad debts on the construction side that you have to get over, and you do. And I guess the kids, I look after the kids where we can. I've helped them with deposits with houses. You get the little starter home. So we bought some houses in the past, and they took the mortgages on. I just help them where I can. If they ask me, if they like, Tom, my son, I hope he don't listen to this, but he probably will. He come around, he's buying his Volkswagen camper, and it's like, Dad, can I borrow £30,000? I'm like, well, how are you going to pay that back? He says, well, I'll get £200 or £300 a month. So you're going to give you £30,000, and you're going to give me, so that's going to take X amount of years to pay off.
12 years.
I'm like, Tom, go to the bank.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, it's but if they're doing something to the house, if we can help them out in any way, then we do. And just love it, a loving family, love it, just we're real close knit. I keep looking over there because there's a big picture on the wall of the family, and it sort of brings you back to it. And the partners, it's like all their partners become part of our family, and that's really, really key for us. And it's quite emotional when you talk about it, because it really, when I had the operation, it was the family that got me through it.
I bet. Gary, I could have carried on. I could carry on for another hour or two. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. I can't emphasize how inspirational a lot of this has been. Honesty. I think there is literally got to be a part 2, because we haven't gone into detail on so many things. I think I'd like to do a second episode in the near future where we go into some of those tougher moments and the actual reality of the journey and the highs and lows, because I think we've given the kind of chronological view, and I think there's more we could do. If anyone does listen out and say, look, I want to talk to that guy, are you open to a chat with him if they message you on LinkedIn? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Love to hear from people. I mean, my LinkedIn following is not the biggest. It's about 1,000, because I had a mad moment a few years ago and just deleted the whole thing.
Well, we'll tag you in this. If anyone who wants to speak to you, and then we'll get a part 2 booked in. But thank you so much. It's definitely, I know, you've been through a lot, and you've still got that motivation, which for me is inspirational.
Thank you, Sean. It's nice because sometimes you forget you've got that motivation, and by talking to you today in this interview is put a smile on my face. And I've been talking to your brother a few times as well. He's a great guy, and I have the same reaction when I speak to him. But no, by speaking to you today, it's put a smile on my face, and it just sort of reconciles what you have achieved in life, because we didn't talk about success, and it's something I would like to talk about, because it means so many different things to people. And it's not just
let's get part 2 organized. Gary, you're a legend. We'll get you in soon.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, as always, for listening to today's show. I truly, truly hope that you got value from it. That's the only reason I take time every week, is to ensure that my audience, future and existing recruitment owners, are learning from each other to make this industry that I love so much stronger. Today's episode was brought to you by Hoxo Media. I am the CEO and founder of Hoxo Media, and we are the world's leading content marketing and personal branding agency for recruitment businesses specifically. So we are working with over 200 agencies and 2,000 recruiters right now, both managing the brands, producing content, building written, video, podcast content for niche recruitment agencies all over the world, as well as coaching at a desk level individual recruiters in your businesses how to be better on LinkedIn. That's how to brand themselves. That's how to produce content. That's how to use the opportunity on LinkedIn to get traffic to their profiles and turn that into business. We're coaching people all over the world every single day. If any of that sounds of interest, please do visit www.hoxomedia.com or drop me, Sean Anderson, a personal message on LinkedIn. I would love to talk to you. I'll see you soon.